Are we on or?
Yeah, I just have it muted now. Perfect. You're
Oh,
good to go.
okay. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks.
Okay, I guess we are ready to go. And the first thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. And I think, Brenda, you had a great suggestion. And maybe you want to speak to it?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, when I saw how heavy this agenda was in terms of the amount of material that we had to consider, my suggestion for the Seymour Bay Landing referral was that we hear tonight the staff report for that. And then in our next meeting, have another meeting where we actually discuss the referral. So that tonight we would just hear the staff report on that. I'm not sure if that requires an amendment to the agenda or not.
I believe it would require an amendment to the agenda because currently we're going through the whole thing. So does someone want to move? Brenda?
I move that we amend the agenda so that rather than discussing the referral of Seymour Bay Landing, it's just receiving staff report.
Great, thanks. And Betty, okay, and all in favor? I think that looks like it's unanimous. Okay, so if we can have that changed, and then the next thing is the election of the chair. And
no, we are adopting minutes first.
Oh, yes, minutes as from last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to go through those?
Yep.
And everyone okay? Okay, move. Somebody? Richard D. and Brenda second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, then we move on to public comments. Now, I have a few people here. I know Margaret was wanting to speak in public comments. Cam, were you wishing to speak in public comments?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I have two. Is there anybody else? Okay. Margaret, I'm just grabbing my timer. We're going to have a 2-minute limit for this evening. I'm just going to get my timer going, and then I'll let you know when to start. And then once your time's up, I'll let you know. Okay?
Yep.
Great. Perfect. Okay, you can go now.
Thank you. My name is Margaret Underhill. I live on West Side Road. And I just wanted to reiterate our main concerns on this application. The massive density increase, tripling the current neighborhood population. This would be a completely commercial-oriented property in a rural residential neighborhood for the business uses of the non-resident owner and his investors. An adequate supply of water must be proven before any approval, as well as an independent assessment of potential impact on neighboring wells must be conducted. And BC law is clear that the term manufactured home includes modular homes, and a group of 3 or more manufactured homes on rented pads are a manufactured home park. This is an established neighborhood. Some of us purchased at the time of original subdivision some 40 years ago. Many more have lived here for 10 to 35 years. We chose this area for its large, quiet rural lots, the ability to own livestock and practice agriculture, privacy, a good place to raise children, and daily contact with wildlife and nature. Our decisions to purchase were made on the basis of OCP, land use bylaw, and covenant provisions that ensured this type of lifestyle. At the last APC meeting, a brief exchange captured the essence of this issue. Martin Picallo asked the applicant why he selected this site for such a big development, when the OCP indicates that this is best done near Snug Cove. The applicant answered that it's the only one he has control over. One would think that a professional developer would select a site that would be appropriate for their planned development, perhaps a few issues around setbacks or density, but not a wholesale breaking of the rules. In the case of 1355 West Side Road, the proposed development would require an OCP amendment, a rezoning, and a reworking of the land use bylaw section that prohibits manufactured home parks. All this while the residents of our neighborhood have been living peacefully for decades in accordance with those same OCP and land use bylaw provisions. That's what's wrong with this picture.
That's
At
time,
minimum,
Margaret.
pardon me?
That's time.
Okay, thank you for your wisdom and patience in considering these issues.
Thanks. Thanks, Margaret.
Okay, and Cameron, are you up? You ready?
Yeah, yes, I am. Thanks.
Perfect. Okay, you can start now.
Planning, as I see it, is a forward-looking endeavor. We're planning the future, and the Advisory Planning Commission is advising on the future of Bowen Island. It strikes me that committees on this island are generally populated by people not much different than me, older and homeowners. We are all looked after. But how are we planning for the future of those that aren't looked after? What about the generations behind us? Can they afford to live on Bowen? What about workforce housing? What about age-in-place housing? So what does our future need? More of the same or more housing diversity? Those who are on Facebook have certainly seen those posts. It's a young family whose rental house has just been put up for sale, and they are desperately seeking a new rental on Bowen Island. The clock is ticking. When I see these posts, I'm thankful that it's not me. I know many rentals out there are available. I know how many rentals are out there, and it's not enough. And the insecurity of this situation must be so stressful. Are we going to have to move? Or am I going to have to get another job? Where will our kids be in school? This is happening in numerous households right now. I ask all of you to try and imagine your younger selves in that scary and difficult position. During the previous APC meeting, application process, and site visits to the property, a number of questions have been asked and answered. The biggest of which is water and wastewater, both of which we have engineered plans for in compliance with Vancouver Coastal Health and the Ministry of the Environment. There have been questions about covenants on the property. A copy of that covenant is part of today's agenda item, and we are in full compliance with that covenant. The biggest issue relates to neighbors and the neighborhood. Some of our neighbors have concerns. We've taken lots of steps to address these concerns to minimize the impact, but concerns remain, and I understand that.
That's time,
But-
Cam.
Okay, thank you.
So you're muted, Kirsty.
Thanks. Is that it for speakers?
That's it. That's it for public comment. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, then we can roll on to election of the chair.
Mhm.
And
Yes. So does anyone, would anyone like to nominate anybody for the position? Betty?
I'd like to nominate Brenda McLuhan, please.
Is there a second for that?
I'll second.
Yeah.
So who is that?
Kirsty.
Kirsty? Richard, did I see with your hand up?
I was just offering to second that motion as well.
Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to step forward?
Do we need to know if Brenda's interested?
Oh, Brenda, do you want to be the chair?
That would probably be helpful.
Yeah.
I would accept that nomination. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Okay. Is Brenda running unopposed? Okay. Well, then I guess all in favor say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Feeling very unanimous. Congratulations, Brenda.
Thank you. Thank
And
you,
Kirsty,
everyone.
Kirsty, thank you so much for stepping in and acting as chair. Are you happy to carry on with your role as vice?
Sure. If
Fantastic.
that works for you, Brenda.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, so at 7:11 p.m., Brenda, you are now the acting chair. And
Okay.
are you prepared?
Yes, I think I am prepared.
Perfect.
So the next item on our agenda is the council referral respecting West Side Road. Daniel, I don't know, you did circulate some material to us in advance of this meeting, which we've read. Did you want to speak to that at all?
Thanks, Brenda. I did bring a presentation, but essentially it's the same presentation as I gave you in our last meeting in November. So I guess it's a question for you if you want to see it again as a refresher of the proposal, or if you want to go straight into discussion after our last meeting and after the site visit.
Okay. My sense is that we should probably use our time wisely, given that we've only got 30 minutes allocated for our discussion, that we should probably focus on that. Unless if anyone disagrees, perhaps they can put up their hand if you'd like to hear from Daniel. Okay, seeing no one. Then it seems we have enough information to have formulated some opinions. Given that we've now had a presentation, we've done a site visit, we've read the answers to our questions, I wonder if maybe taking the pulse of our group by going around and having each person say how they're feeling about this referral would be the best way to go.
Sure.
Do I have a volunteer for who would like to go first? Kirsty.
Sure, I might as well. Okay, I think that the idea and the recommendation is creative, and I agree in some ways with Cam Rolfe that we need to look forward and not just backwards on how things were. I do think that the increase in density is pretty over the top. I have no idea what the financials on the proposal are and whether it is realistic to have a lesser number of units there. I think it would fit on the ground better. It's going to be pretty tight, in my opinion. I think the key things for the development are, really the key thing is water, and how it's not just whether the wells will provide enough water for this development. It's if, and it will happen when the neighbors decide that they want to develop as well, has this proponent taken all of the water that would have provided for additional housing in the areas around? And I think that that's I don't feel that question has been answered. And so to me, that's a big barrier, both the quantity of units and then the water situation. So not just for this development, I'm sure there's enough for this, but when the people that are against development then decide they want to subdivide, are they shut out? And I don't think that would be right. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? Martin, you're
Sure,
next.
I could. Yeah. So I feel generally supportive of this proposal. Unfortunately, I missed the site visit due to a conflict. But having said that, I believe it is generally in, working in the direction that we need to work in on Bowen Island. I think the only question I would have right now would be to Margaret, who mentioned a BC law restraint on modular density. I would like to see a reference to that law. That would be my ask right now. Thank you.
Okay. I don't know if it's appropriate to ask that question right now. Daniel, maybe I can ask it to you since you are our staff resource. Are you aware of the law that Margaret was referring to?
I believe that Margaret is referring to in her email to the commission that's included, I think, in our late items, and you would have got by email. I'm sorry, let me just try to open everything up here. in her reference, part of it is discussion around the manufactured home park, and that our land use bylaw prohibits manufactured home park. And so in her letter on page 5 of that letter, she talks about legislation from the BC government about manufactured or mobile homes and the definitions of manufactured homes, and that so in this, she says the BC Manufactured Home Act, section 23(1) states, in this section, manufactured home park means land used or occupied by a person for the purpose of providing space for the accommodation of 3 or more manufactured homes. So I believe that's what she was referring to. I could be wrong, but that would be my interpretation.
Thank you,
and so
Daniel.
that was that email we got on Sunday.
Martin, does that answer your question?
Probably not exactly. Just for context, in my professional life, I am involved with modular construction extensively for the purpose of providing social housing projects for BC Housing in British Columbia. And these modular buildings are essentially constructed that way as a means and methods. But in the end, they are effectively buildings that are just like any other building. It's the difference is how they are constructed, not the net and effect. So I'm still not seeing the correlation between, you know, what would be seen as housing development of camper trailers versus what is proposed now here. And I kind of see this more as a conventional property development, the only difference being how it is constructed.
Okay,
So, yeah.
thank you. Betty, I think I saw your hand up next.
Yeah, I would take off from what Cam said, that this is basically a precedent-setting proposal. It's suggesting how we're going to treat development into the future. And it allows high density housing on the Grafton Lake watershed, which impacts a large proportion of the island's water. So my feeling is that this is a decision that belongs with the official community plan and not with the planning commission at this point.
Okay. All right. Richard, well, we have 2 Richards. Richard Underdown.
Yes. Excuse me, guys, I'm just traveling right now, so
Oh.
I want to make sure the signal, if I put my video on, I'm just on my phone link and I'm not sure I'll stay on, but anyway, we'll try it. I have concerns about the overall density of this project. I understand the proponent's argument that there's a need for future housing on Bowen and future affordability of that housing is something that he's attempting to provide here. But I'm not convinced that a chattel mortgage on a depreciating asset is the best investment for someone who is starting out and hoping to achieve home ownership. The asset will depreciate while the landowner's land will be appreciating. And yeah, I don't think it's a great model. It is a question for the OCP. I agree with Betty. I have concerns about the overall impact of this density on the rural character in the neighborhood. And proving water availability is another issue that I don't think I'm convinced by. Yeah. So I'm not in favor of this development in this particular sensitive location on Bowen. Transportation is also another issue that isn't ideal. We've talked about a path across the adjacent lot on Grafton Road. And that would require, just from our site visit, building up some sort of elevated walkway, or at least a raised area. It's quite low lying in back there, so there would have to be a number of culverts to allow water to flow through. I just, again, I don't think that, given the sensitive nature of the recharge area for Grafton Lake, that it's the right place for this type of development, and whether this type of development is indeed right for Bowen. So those are my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Richard Domeyer.
Thanks, Brenda. Yeah, I'm still concerned about the impact of the development on the neighborhood. I'm not so worried about water supply as I was last time. I see there's a commitment to do a water study as per Section 619 of the Land Use Bylaw, which is not required for this development, but is being offered. So then that puts that gives me a lot more comfort in terms of concerns about firefighting, water supply. I had some other I did email RBC, and they confirmed that the financial brochure that was given to us would apply to both manufactured and mobile homes. So, and then I had two general comments about zoning. In other words, I don't know that it's my place to say I support this development or not. Our role is to try and craft better zoning, or better ideas to minimize impacts. I had two ideas which actually they're probably a little bit they're a little bit early. They go into kind of some nitty-gritty of crafting zoning. So maybe I'll just leave them out for the moment, but they apply both to this development and to the Seymour Bay development, if anybody's interested. Particularly, I think the first comment, particularly to this development, would be more, more important. So I don't know. I'm jumping the gun a bit. Yeah. So just let me know if you want to hear them, or if you think I'm jumping the gun. And
Well, what I'm hoping to do just right at this moment is just to take the pulse of everyone's thoughts on the particular referral that we have before us. So I think confining our comments to that right now would be appropriate. Well, that leaves me, and I think it's really important when we're looking at this very new type of proposed housing for Bowen Island to look at it within the overall context of development on this island. I absolutely agree that this proposal has some things going for it. We need more diverse forms of housing on this island. There's no question about that. And we do need more affordable housing on this island. And we have a proponent that's come to us with a long history on this island, and who is certainly well-intentioned, and who runs a successful business in more than one on this island. But the question for me in looking at this is, we really need to assess whether this is a good location for this concentrated form of housing. And I think it's got some points really running against it in that regard. One of them is that it's in the Grafton Lake watershed area. And it's also, which is, as we all know, our biggest water supply. And what I think about is that if we allow this type of high density development in a watershed, that's going to set a precedent for other higher density developments in watersheds on Bowen Island. And I think we really need to be thoughtful about that. To me, that's the type of decision, the tension between preserving the island's most important water supply and the need for more progressive types of housing that should be considered as part of the OCP planning process. And I also just learned today that Council has recently hired a consultant to prepare a watershed management plan for the Grafton Lake watershed. And to me, I was really glad to hear that. And I'd like to see, I think Council should want to see the results of that before they decide to approve what I think would be kind of a precedent-setting new type of development for this island. I also am mindful of that 1986 restrictive covenant, which sets a maximum number of lots for that area and provides for no further subdivision. And its purpose pretty clearly seems to me to be to prevent densification on that land that it runs with. And I think it's significant as we look at that covenant to understand that that land was originally zoned as community water supply protection. The covenant was upheld in 2007 when there was an application made to divide the land into two different lots. Others have mentioned that it's right next to Lot 7, which is an Islands Trust has identified as a major recharge area for the Grafton Lake watershed. And I do wonder what the effect will be of the newly drilled adjacent wells if this proposal were to go ahead in that location and the ongoing demands of 34 new units of housing. And then others have mentioned that, the answer to the question about why here was that, it's because the proponent owns that land, which I understand, but I don't find that to be a compelling reason for allowing that development in this particular area when our OCP provides, our existing OCP provides that multi-unit housing should occur within the Snug Cove Village area. So to me, I think that the issue of, where these new forms of housing should be permitted on Bowen should be planned for by looking at Bowen as a whole and selecting the best location for this type of higher density housing. And that's one of the things that the OCP steering committee is currently engaged in. So I absolutely recognize that developments of this type may very well be needed, but in my opinion, they should be part of a cohesive, thoughtful, and considered plan for the entire island and not considered, on an application by application basis. So where I'm going with this is that my recommendation to council would be to defer any further consideration of this proposal until after the OCP is updated and the watershed management plan for the Grafton Lake watershed has been created. So those are my thoughts. So I guess if I'm, summing up what I just heard from everyone, I think I would characterize, and please do correct me if I'm wrong about the way that I'm going to characterize the comments that I've heard, but I would interpreted, Kirsty, I interpreted your comments as being on the side of deferring, recommending that council defer this proposal. Is that fair?
I'm not concerned about the OCP and whether we do it before the rehash of the OCP, but I do think that there needs to be a couple of things, which is number of units, I think is too much. And I think that the water, there needs to be a good water study done. So if that's deferring it until council does their water study, I don't know how good their water study is going to be, but that is to me a big concern, because I think we do need a lot more houses on the island. And I also would like, even if we do defer, I'd like to say that there's some pieces of this development that are positive, like a different kind of, that, because I think I feel that. I don't know whether this is the right location, the number of houses or anything, but I do think we need to be more creative and more open-minded, as opposed to just saying we've got what we've got and we don't want anything to change. Because quite often these rezonings or the zoning restrictions go into place because that's the only way the landowner could get the zoning done. Okay, you can have 6 lots, but you have to promise to never divide anything else. And I think that's happened many, many times on the island. So I'm not so concerned about the zoning restrictions on those 6 lots or 8 lots or whatever. So anyway, I'll shut up now.
All right. Well, you're making it challenging for me to characterize your comments. Martin is the only comment that I heard as being generally supportive of the development as presented. I would characterize the balance of comments from Betty, the 2 Richards, and myself as being recommending that council defer its consideration of this proposal at this time until the OCP review has been completed. Is that fair? Or if not, please let me know.
I think that's a fair characterization of my thoughts, Brenda. I don't see why we need to rush this. It's a unique form of housing, and it would be precedent setting. And I think that does need to be considered in the new OCP. So yes, I'm in favor of deferring it.
Brenda, I wonder whether we should have a show of hands for that sort of motion. A motion to recommend that that council defer.
Are you making that motion?
I'm just pulling it up. Do you want me to pull it up to make sure you have the wording? Just give me a second.
Yes, please.
Can you see that?
Yes, we can. What I'm reading is, what we're all reading is that the APC recommends that council defer consideration of proposal, OCP, etc., until the OCP is updated and the Grafton Lake Watershed Management Plan is complete. Richard, is that does that accurately capture? I don't think you said quite all of that.
No, I didn't, but that's a very reasonable motion to vote on, I think. So I'd propose that as a motion we vote on.
Okay, do I have a seconder?
I can go ahead and second that. I just can't raise my hand.
Okay, we have a seconder. All right, and so I'll call the vote, and knowing that we actually can't see anybody because we have the motion in front of us,
Oh my goodness.
maybe you can take the motion down,
Yeah.
and then we can have a show of hands. All right, so all in favor, and keep your hand up so that Sarah can count all of us.
So 1, 2, I have 3, 4 in favor.
And I am in favor. I just cannot raise.
Okay, so that's 5 in favor.
Okay, against?
I'm not against, but if we just say that we're against it until the OCP is done, how are we going to give input to the OCP that perhaps we're interested in different types of housing and, stuff like that? Because how are they going to consider something different if they don't know about anything? Because we're not going to do anything until the OCP is done. Like
Excellent. Yeah, excellent question. And I was just going to suggest that we might want to follow up this vote with providing some comments about that. So that would, possibly be quite helpful to the steering committee. So going back to the vote then, so 5 in favor, and I just called against. Martin?
Okay, does that add up though? So all the names and everything just all moved around. 1,
Oh.
2, 3, 4, 5.
I'll say I'm against. So
Yeah.
I don't know. How many of us are there?
There's 6 of you, and now I have 7 votes. Sorry, would you mind doing that again?
Yes, absolutely. So all in favor, please raise your hand.
So I'm just going to type it out. So I've got Betty and Richard D and Richard U
In favor, yes.
in favor. Okay, and so then that was Martin and Kirsty, who are both not for it.
Correct.
Okay, that's square.
All right. And I do think that it would be helpful to have a discussion about what we would like comments that we'd like to pass on to the OCP steering committee. We do have a member of that committee with us. Betty is on that committee. And so would anyone like to speak to that? Kirsty, I'm going to go to you first because you had.
Okay, well, I guess I would like the OCP to be open to what we learned from this is that there's a lot of different ways of adding housing to Bowen Island. And I would like the OCP to read about this proposed development and become more creative and thoughtful in their ideas of how Bowen can grow, as opposed to just saying everything should be in the cove and we don't really want any development anywhere that there isn't any now. And which I think is, from my perspective, the way it's been since the OCP was designed.
I see Councillor Jurgensen has his hand up.
I just wanted to mention to the committee, that I've been here, if I need to be called on, but also that I am as well with Betty on the OCP committee.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Martin, uh, I want to call on you as well because of your opposition. Oh, sorry. Because of your opposition, and just wonder if there's anything sort of message that you want to pass on to the OCP steering committee.
Well, I think Kirsty articulated my point of view quite well as well. I believe that we have to look beyond the cove to find options for affordable housing on Bowen Island. And, obviously that's a challenge here. But I think this proposal is ticking most of the boxes off that are of concern to me. And I think also many of the issues that have been raised are addressed already in this proposal. So I'm generally supportive of it. As far as the OCP is concerned, I think, again, yes, it's an issue of finding ways of developing housing on Bowen Island that's not only focused on the Cove. Because not everyone works in the Cove or commutes. People may be employed throughout the island or finding work from home options as well. And housing should reflect that. So as long as our environmental concerns are met within, defined legislation, I don't see a reason why we shouldn't be looking at unconventional proposals.
Okay. Betty, I think I saw your hand up next.
Yeah, this one's really more of a question for Daniel. It's conservation development policy. What is it? 2202. This particular proposal suggests that the housing is affordable housing, and therefore it's trading off 15% affordable housing against 50% for nature conservation. Is that how you interpret that policy? That those are interchangeable?
Well, what the policy says is it gives the guidelines. So the goal of 50% of the land protected. And then it says council may consider the application of this policy in balance with other municipal targets and policies. So it doesn't provide any sort of, metrics for that, but it leaves it for council to say in theory, you're over providing, you're achieving our goals something, and you may not be achieving the goals for this, but we consider like the balance to
So
be
then,
there.
it would be to the proponent to certify that this is affordable housing under the municipality's definition, which I think you sent us earlier, which has to do with that covenant that agrees that they'll keep the pricing, I think, rather than on some kind of needs assessment of the people who might live there. Have I got that right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
Richard Domeyer.
Thank you. Yeah, I think to me it's very interesting to compare these two, this project and the Seymour Bay project, because they're both adding density, but there is a difference. There is a subtlety there that the Seymour Bay project has the potential to create another sort of hub on the island, you could say, whereas this one, I can't see it. Like I can't see this one ever becoming a sort of a new I know it's close to the Ruddy Potato Kitchen, but you know, I don't know. I don't know if I'm making myself making any sense, but you know, Seymour Bay development, to my mind, has the potential to even maybe lower traffic to Snug Cove if the commercial component is really beefed up and made available to you know people on the south side of the island, the south and the east west side of the island. You know, which to me this development just doesn't have that kind of positive impact. That's my message for the OCP. I know it's a rambling message, but there you are.
So the suggestion being that um, that higher density developments should have a uh, enough commercial aspect to them that they can be a hub
Well, I don't know
unto
if that applies
themselves.
to all. I don't know if that applies to all, but you know, I support more development across the island. But this one is not a good example, you know, whereas the Seymour Bay development, to my mind, is a better example of how that can actually sort of perhaps be a positive have a positive impact. Um, you know, there might be other developments in other parts of the island. Um, you know, that can because we can't only have you know we can't only have two or developments in sort of well, I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe we do identify, you know, Betty and the people on the OCP will know more than I do, you know, whether we are identifying you know, nodes for development and densification around those nodes. Maybe yeah, maybe that is it. I don't know.
Okay. Um, anything else that we want to pass on? And Sarah, I should check with you. Are you getting these down?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Um,
Yeah.
Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, Brenda, I would just like to, everyone, I'd just like to add that OCP, I think, should be considering the housing model of not a trailer park, but a modular home park, which be argued is just semantics. In effect, it's the same thing. It is the rental of a leased pad. And I wonder about the suitability of that. The density aspect is one that's obviously something that's needed to create more affordable housing. But you know, for instance, if someone has to buy their own modular home for, let's say, $500,000, chattel mortgage 8%, whatever that you know cost is, they're paying 8% interest, and then paying on top of that to lease the land. And I just wonder about the economics of it. Obviously, it's buyer beware. Whoever's going to enter into a commitment like that will hopefully have done their due diligence. But I just question it as a truly affordable model for Bowen or for anywhere. There was a submission by Don Schaefer, who articulated this a lot better than I am right now, but essentially problems with trailer parks, you know, 10 and 15 and 20 years down the road, again, where the land value has gone up. There's increased pressure on densification, and people really with nowhere to go, nowhere to take their modular homes to. So I hope the OCP can cover the type of housing as outlined by the proponent and its suitability. I think that the Bowen Island resilient housing, that Birch are also looking into this. So perhaps that's something they're also considering.
Thank you. Okay. I think everyone has covered things off really well. I think the point has been captured that I hope it is anyway. The point that I made about whether it's appropriate to put limits on the types of developments that can occur in watersheds on Bowen was one point that I want to be sure is included. That was a really significant concern for me. And yeah, that's about it. I think everybody else has already captured my concerns. So I wonder, Sarah, if we could maybe just quickly see that list. And then if anyone has anything additional to add, we'll look at the list, then we'll take it down. And then I'll ask if there's any other points that people would like to add. Sarah, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Let me get it in. It's in my minutes software right now. Can I get it to you and send it to the group tomorrow morning?
Sure.
Thank you. It's trapped inside this software.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. I'd just like to thank everybody for your considered comments, for taking a lot of material and going through it, synthesizing it, and providing some very considered opinions and thoughts. And I hope that the outcome of our discussion will be of some assistance to the OCP steering committee. So thank you everyone for that.
And I think, Brenda, just to close the loop sort of process-wise, I think that when we have the minutes, and we'll circulate the draft minutes to the committee, or at least this discussion, and then we'll send that discussion to the OCP steering committee in terms of how to bring it to them. So it'll be you'll have the recommendation that'll go to council, and then there'll be a discussion part of the minutes. And we'll say members raise these points, and we'll relay that directly to the steering committee.
Thank you. That would be very helpful. Okay. That takes us then to our next agenda item, which is Daniel, your report on the Seymour Bay Landing application.
Thank you, Brenda. So I have a presentation to go through with you. I just think that was a great I know this ended up being a large agenda with two very significant developments, but kind of fitting that they're both developments outside of Snug Cove with large residential components and sort of very different ways of achieving that for you guys to consider. So let me pull this up here. All right, so we've received an application to amend the land use bylaw and the official community plan for a development around Seymour Bay Landing. So for those not familiar with the area, this is in the sort of south coast of Bowen, just outside Seymour Bay, and the development itself is focused on some discrete areas within the overall Seymour Bay plan. So it is, as you come down Cowan Point Drive, as you turn onto Seymour Bay Drive, a portion of the land to the west of Cowan Point Road there. And you'll see that that's sort of more the recreational piece of the application. And then the housing itself takes place as you would to go along Seymour Bay Drive itself. So both to the south and the north, or below and above Seymour Bay Drive, but not extending down to Seymour Bay Park and Beach Drive in the golf course area. Sorry, so the applicant would seek up to 312 units in the zone. So this is in the overall Cowan Point development area, increased from 160 that are currently permitted in that comprehensive development area. And development is shown. So you see here how the plan is labeled with these sort of 6 areas, and those each in the application have different different developments proposed or types proposed in those 6 different areas. So overall, the application seeks denser, more clustered housing in various forms, then also seeks additional commercial floor area to create a viable commercial area. In terms of where we are in the overall plan, this was introduced to council just last week. And so we're here referral for committees. And then you can see sort of how the application would move forward. So we'd see to come back to council with the results of referrals, go for a bylaw. The bylaw is then referred back. So the committee would expect to see this again. If this proceeds, we expect to see it again after first reading. Before going to second reading, public hearing, third reading, and so on. In terms of the OCP, so this land is within an OCP comprehensive development area. So it's a Cowan Point comprehensive development area in Bowen's OCP. I've circled in red sort of roughly those areas of land, and they're within this here around Seymour Bay in the CDA 1 zone. So they have overall objectives for this area. So objective 65 talks about comprehensively plan and implement the Cowan Point phase development in a manner that fosters a sense of community through a clustered settlement pattern with diverse housing types that are located on lots of assorted sizes. And objective 66 is about provision of land for community institutional uses. And objective 67 is to prevent or protect environmentally sensitive areas and minimize environmental impact through a number of things. So the retention of natural vegetation, narrower roads, avoiding development in sensitive areas. And our OCP then has some policies that one policy that talks about appropriate locations for townhouse and multi-unit housing. And it identifies Belterra, the Grafton Lake development area, Lot 1 of the community lands, and the Seymour Bay area of the Cowan Point comprehensive development area. So this area was identified. This is a policy that talks about multi-unit housing outside of Snug Cove, in essence, or outside of the Snug Cove village. And then there's a number of policies. So policy 146 sets the maximum number of residential dwelling units at 176. Policy 147 gives council the ability to consider innovative development proposals that exceed the maximum number of dwelling units or the lot size in the zoning bylaw. And policy 148 breaks down the comprehensive development zone into 2 areas. So block 1, where the maximum 15 lots is, and that's sort of the far north of that CDA zone, like off of almost Salal Drive, Athletic Park Drive area, and then block 2 being the southern part, which allows 9 distinct housing areas and 161 dwelling units. So in terms of land use bylaw changes, the application would seek to amend area 9 of the Cowan Point CD area to permit a number of uses. So additional commercial recreation uses, primarily daycare, retail, full retail use. So currently the retail use is restricted, and then recreation facilities. Permit increased commercial space. So for example, increase the retail space from 200 to 500 square meters. Increase the number of guest house bedrooms. So the guest house use is permitted in the zone with a maximum of 20 bedrooms, and they would seek to increase that to 30 bedrooms. And then the big number being increasing the number of primary dwelling units in area 9. So from 48 to 200. And I know the number of dwelling units changes a bit, but it changes if we're talking about just area 9 as a whole, as opposed to what's allowed in the complete Cowan Point zone. But in area 9 itself, it would go from 48 to 200. Some staff discussion. So water, as with anywhere on Bowen, with the big development, water is a consideration. The applicant has provided technical studies showing analysis of capacity at Josephine Lake and the water rights remaining to the Cowan Point utility within the Josephine Lake. And so staff have committed to commission a third-party review of that analysis and to bring that back, and then also to contact a body known as the Comptroller of Water Rights. So the Cowan Point utility is a private water utility on Bowen, which means that their development is governed by a body called the Comptroller of Water Rights that's with the province of BC. So currently, any development in the Cowan Point, as part of the Cowan Point development, and to be served by the Cowan Point utility, any development, like any subdivision of the ongoing subdivisions, requires approval from the Comptroller of Water Rights. And so they, in each subdivision, they'll provide the approval to say, yes, you're approved for one additional lot, or you're approved for two additional lots, or whatever the subdivision may be. So if this zoning were to go ahead, if this was approved by council, each subdivision and each development would need individual approval from the Comptroller of Water Rights. And so we're in discussions with that to say, can we get, would they provide comment or provide, preliminary analysis and approval, or just analysis on the application, knowing that they would have to then approve it going forward. The affordable housing policy, the applicant is open to discussion with BIM about provision of affordable and diverse housing. And so council has referred this referral as well to Birch, the Bowen Island Resilient Community Housing Society, that we have a partnership agreement with, for them to provide the municipality, in part, them to provide municipality with advice on affordable housing provisions. And then I'd like your conservation development policy as well. And I think in my staff report to council, I note that this is an odd site in essence to apply the conservation development policy on. So the Cowan Point development as a whole was a sort of master planned development that included park dedication and trail creation and open land dedication, most of which has been conveyed at this point. So the sort of the proposal that is before council doesn't have, 50% of the land is not dedicated for protection, because essentially it's the development sites that are left are proposed to increase development on those lots. So I think that's a discussion we can have maybe after site visit. Brenda, I see your hand up.
I just wanted to ask, so was initially when the development as a whole was approved, did the 50% dedication take place then, or do you know what the percentage was?
I don't know what the percentage was, and I can bring that. I thought of that question as I was preparing this slide, Brenda, thinking somebody's going to ask me. And so I can definitely bring that back to a further one. That was before the adoption of the conservation development policy. So it wouldn't have been, reviewed on that basis. But I can definitely bring a map showing, land that's been dedicated through this development. Right, and then this was just to note that it was referred to you as the Planning Commission. It was referred to the Parks Environment Climate Action Advisory Committee, who meet tomorrow to discuss. It was referred to Birch, and then it was referred to the OCP Steering Committee for information. And that was the council direction we got on last Monday. And that's it. And I'll stop sharing at that point.
Okay.
Betty.
Betty, I see a hand up.
Yeah, on that, what stands for the conservation development portion of the existing plan, did all that land become the responsibility of the municipality to manage, or does it stay under the auspices of the developer? So like the trails and the parks, does that all become muni to maintain? And
yeah, I think I'd say there's a mix, I think. So there's some parkland the municipality has, and there's some trails the municipality has. And I know throughout the development, there are some like environmental covenants as well, where essentially it's like on the private land, but it's, protected from further development. So I think, so I don't think I have a great answer offhand. Other than say that there's a mix, there's a variety.
I guess that's an area if it comes back before this committee, that I'd like to know more about, because having walked out there fairly frequently, my feeling is that it's kind of a wasteland. There's a lot of invasive plants. There's often it's hard to even find a route through, depending on what project they're working on, and it strikes me that maybe if there's not additional land, maybe it's more about how they develop and steward the land that's there so that it's a little more responsible. Is that possible?
I see we have a representative of the proponent here who could answer that question. I have no problem with that. Darren?
Sorry, Darren, you're
Sorry,
muted
you're on
again.
mute.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not the most proficient Zoom user. I really, really appreciate you letting me step in here. Betty, I appreciate that comment very much, and I'd like to give you an update that basically a minute to minute update. I would like to invite you all out to the site to show you the effort we put forth to address just what you're talking about, which has been a very, very painful and difficult invasive issue that we've had with this terrible plant called gorse. And I've become very, very aware of how to deal with it through my research and through my talks with the BC Invasives Council over a number of years and several tests that we have done. And I can attest to you today that my skin and blood, my son and my nephew, have been working for the last 3 months reducing the invasives across our lands and even into municipal and privately owned lands for some of our neighbors. And both of my boys are going to do the noxious and invasive weed test in the coming month at BC Service to become accredited noxious weed experts for Bowen Island in general, because there's much more than just in our lands where we're seeing these very aggressive species take hold. So it's a big concern for us in a corporate manner, and I'd love to show you all that effort and the success that we're having and some of the methods that we've learned about through our studies to not rely primarily on chemical solutions, which none of us want, but finding ways to basically choke out these plants through the use of things like bark mulch and chips, which our local sawyers are providing to us free of charge so that we can start to blanket these areas that are infested so that we win this battle, as it were. So I thank you for that question because it's been of immense concern to us. We're doing the best we can to be stewards to the land. The other issue we have seen, and as you're probably all aware, much of those roughed-in areas have been done for 10 to 15 years by now. The road networks, and we do the heavy blasting and the ugly work ahead of time so that when we move people in to be new neighbors, they're not subjected to noise and confusion and horrible big requirements of development on this island. And as a result of that, we've tried to do our best, and here we go over the last number of years with these long drought summers that, to our horror, we lost, for example, in the main area that you'll see as part of our rezoning, just over the last 2 years, over 30 very mature cedar trees that up until now have been very, very healthy. And we've seen that elsewhere on the island. From my own deck in my own house here, I can see thickets of cedar trees that have died right in the Grafton watershed. So this is a challenge, like everything else. And
Aaron, sorry, I'm just mindful of our time, and I
Okay.
wonder if I could maybe stop you there.
Of course. Thank you. Yeah.
It was helpful to hear what you had to say, and we will be discussing a site visit, I think, and so we'll have an opportunity to hear more
Wonderful.
about what's been done out there when that happens. So thank you for that.
No, you're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yep, no problem. Okay, does anyone else have, Daniel, you look like you maybe wanted to say something?
Oh, no, sorry, I was just fidgeting.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone else have any questions for Daniel about what he has presented to us tonight, or any of the other material that was included with the material that we received as part of our package? Okay.
And I'll just say with that, Brenda, too, I know like this came sort of last minute in a sense for our agenda. And so the, committee members understandably may have focused more on the West Side Road one. But if questions come up, between now and if we go for a site visit, between now and the site visit or the next meeting, feel free to send them to me and the APC email. And then for the next meeting, we can try to bring some overview to address any questions people have.
Okay. So, yeah, I know I panicked a little bit when I saw how much material we had to read through prior to this meeting. And I confess to not having made it quite to the end yet. So I still have a bit of homework to do. We had, Daniel, when you responded to my concern about having so much on our plates for this meeting. You had suggested that we consider doing what we did for the West Side proposal, which was to receive all the material, listen to your presentation, do a site visit, and then have a follow-up meeting after that once we had actually visited the location. So maybe can I have maybe a show of hands? Do people think that's a good idea to follow that process going forward? Do a site visit, then another meeting?
Yep.
Okay. Great. It looks like a majority agree with that idea. So if there are no further questions, Daniel, you had suggested that we combine our site visit with site visits that at least one other committee will be doing. Is that right?
Yeah, so they meet tomorrow.
Okay.
And so we were sort of assuming that they will want a site visit because that's their normal practice. But we'll know by tomorrow night, I guess, if they are sort of looking for a site visit.
Okay. All right. Well, then perhaps you and Sarah can inform our committee, our commission, as to whether they do wish to have a site visit. Martin, you have your hand up.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just a little bit of a tangent, but for the purposes of quorum, I will have to exclude myself from discussions around this file because the main proponent is a close family friend. So
Okay.
I will be listening, but I won't participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for identifying that conflict, and it's always a good reminder to all of us to do a self-check for each application that comes before us, each issue that comes before us. So thank you for that. I suggest that we go forward with that plan to do a site visit, and then Sarah can, as usual, canvass us for available dates to have a follow-up meeting.
Yeah, I will let you know they do, well, especially this time of year, they do tend to be during the day.
For the site visit.
For the site
For the
visit.
site
Yeah,
visits,
sorry.
yes.
Yeah.
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 Okay, great. Well, if I think the last one that we did was arranged to happen over the
Lunchtime, yeah.
lunch hour. And so for those of us like myself who work, it can be helpful if we could have it at that time.
Yeah, for sure. I'll make sure there's some slots like that in there.
Great. Okay, good. Well, thank you, Daniel, for that presentation. So moving on then to item 6.1, 2023-26 BIM Council Strategic Plan. Sarah, is there anything that we need to do on this one?
No,
What
those
do
are
we
just
need to do on this one?
No, those are just all there for your information. There's two sections. The strategic plan is attached to pretty much every agenda, just to remind us sort of, what we're all keeping on track with. And then the 6.2 was just some documents that were submitted by the applicant for your information.
Yep, great. All right.
I'll just to flag for the committee, just to note that council, their last meeting adopted the 2026 strategic plan.
That's
So our
true.
next meeting, you'll see a updated one for anyone who
Okay,
want to
thank you.
keenly peruse. Yeah.
Great. All right. So those are essentially items that have been provided to us, 6.2. And that brings us to item 7, question period, and we are only 2 minutes behind our agenda.
I have a question.
Yes, Anne.
Okay, I've been listening to all this. I am under the impression that you all think that 1355 West Side Road has a magic tap with water providing enough water for 34 tiny homes. You have no idea whether there is water or no water to provide drinking water available for 34 homes. And I think that should be included in the OCP, that before you even look at a project where that is one of the services that you are required to provide is water. And at this stage, you don't have a sweet clue of whether he has any water. He has water for 4 houses, but not 34.
Okay, well, that's I'm not sure if there's a question there, but we did have a majority vote in favor of recommending that council defer the application. So I don't know. I think you were there for that vote.
Yeah, I was there, but it's just that it's my comment that that project is standing on a weak footing, because it's fine that it's deferred, but I think it's an overall impression that people think that all the servicing is readily available. And it's just a thinking, an impression.
Okay. Well, that might be something to consider maybe submitting to the OCP steering committee. I think you're making the point about, being sure about water supply when considering higher density developments.
And that's exactly what Daniel is asking council to make sure that in item, I don't remember the bylaw number XYZ, that has to be fulfilled and should be fulfilled when applying.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from members of the public? No? Okay. Hearing none. We'll move on to item 8, which is our next meeting, and that will be determined once we determine when we're going to do a site visit. And then we will poll to find out everybody's availability for best time for the next meeting. So I don't know if we need a move, anyone moving to adjourn, but I suspect we're all in agreement that we have covered everything off, and Kirsty, in any event, will move that we adjourn. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm honored to serve as your chair and look forward to having the trusty, experienced voice of Kirsty by my side as I serve as your chair. So thank you.
Thank you so much for doing it, Brenda.
Yeah, thanks, Brenda. Great job.
Thank you, Brenda. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.